I need to talk to you for a sec.
Nein,
While I
nein,
was
immer
on
noch
my
nicht.
way to the site, I was
unter
stopped
6
by
gibt's
the
literally nur
department
59
head. I
Möglichkeiten.
halted in my tracks. Yes, what is it?
Nein,
It
immer
was
noch nicht.
rare for Anne to approach me directly, so I responded with a bit of confusion.
This isn't the
Ja,
place
und
for
fürs
this
Museum ist auch das
conversation.
Giveaway,
Come to
was
the
verlost
conference
wird.
room.
Following her instructions, I
Hey,
headed to
Pablo,
the
vielen Dank für die
conference
5
room,
Bits.
entered, and
Wie
sat
gesagt,
down
hinten steht eine
opposite
0.
her.
You only graduated high school, huh?
Nein.
I wonder about a company that would leave the management of a logistics system to someone with just a high
Nein.
school diploma.
Angered by Anne's words, I retorted, "Does educational
kommt,
background
einer
really
verkauft
matter
Schnee.
in managing things?"
Sorry, but you're fired.
Okay, ich
We've
grenze es
hired
weiter
someone
ein.
with a
Es ist
higher
weniger als 4
education
Euro.
level.
Weniger als 4 Euro. Es
Suddenly
ist
being
literally,
told
es sind
I
noch
was
3
fired
Möglichkeiten da.
left me
Es sind nur
speechless.
noch 3 Möglichkeiten
My
da.
name is Tom Smith.
Alles
I'm
andere
an
wurde schon
engineer
besetzt.
managing the company's
Unter 4 Euro.
distribution system. Despite having only a high school diploma, I was
wer noch kein
self-taught
Giveaway-Ticket
in
hat, der muss
system
jetzt rein, weil ich
engineering,
werde es die nächsten
which the
Tage bauen.
company recognized, allowing me to join the company. I owe my employment to Ken, the previous department head, who helped me get this job.
Kann
I
nicht
owe
wahr sein,
everything
oder?
to
Dass das
him.
keiner erwähnt.
Having lost my parents in a car accident
die
at the
einzige Zahl,
age
die
of
noch nicht
5,
gekippt wurde.
I was an orphan with no
nur einer
siblings
rausfinden, was
or
es war.
relatives and was placed in a
Nein.
foster care home. That
Nein,
home
soll ich
had a
weiter
computer
eingrenzen?
donated to it. And since 5th grade, when I first encountered computers at school, I was drawn into the world of computing.
Hey,
Whenever I had
Ernstfall.
free time at the foster
Ernstfall
home,
hat's
I would
erraten.
tinker with the
2,20
computer,
kostet's.
growing interested in programming. I would
2,20
review and apply what I learned in school, advancing to the point where I was creating games and playing them with friends by the time I reached high school. Though it was
2,20
suggested that I
kostet's.
further my education in college,
fairer Preis,
financial constraints made it impossible.
Kannst 5 Bier trinken für 11
Realizing
Euro.
there
Ich
were
mein,
many families
vielleicht zahlst du
unable
für
to
Maß
place their
mehr
children
auf dem
in the
Oktoberfest.
fully occupied foster home, I decided to leave upon graduating high school and took a
0,5
job at a
Pint.
restaurant that offered
Was ist ein
room and
Pint?
board.
0,51
The
oder
restaurant,
0,49? Also
frequented
ist
by
ganz nah an der
Ken during his
0,5 dran.
lunch breaks,
Ein
was
Pint.
where I started working.
Quite a young server, aren't you?
He'd say, as I wiped down tables and showed him to his seat.
Nee,
It
es ist
turns out the
0,6.
shop owner and Ken were childhood
Das ist
friends.
irgendeine krumme Zahl.
He's hired from a local
0,6.
foster home
Auf keinen Fall.
that gets pretty sharp with computers.
Komma.
Even does our books on the
An zwei
computer,
Stellen.
calculating everything from
Google
sales to
Vermarktung.
profits in a snap. He shows us which
Pint
menu
liefert
items
es.
are popular, the profit margins and all. Though, knowing things you'd rather not can be a pain.
0,47376
The
Liter.
restaurant owner would praise me while laughing.
Genau.
Pretty impressive. We're talking about digitizing our
Nee,
logistics at my
0,47,
company.
also ist nicht mal ein halber
Computers
Liter.
are becoming
Ein Schluck
essential,
weniger als wie ein
and
halber
without
Liter.
them,
Ein
we
kleiner
won't be
Schluck
able to
weniger.
keep up. Even if you're busy,
Also ein-
keep studying.
Ein Shot.
If you're still
Runde
into
ein Shot,
computers
ein
when you
bisschen
turn
mehr,
20,
weniger als ein halber
we
Liter.
might have a spot for you at our company.
It seemed Ken was genuinely interested in my computer skills.
I was thinking of leaving the shop to him so I could take it easy. But working at Ken's company might offer you more in the way of a future. Give it your best shot, Tom.
The shop owner encouraged me
Oh,
too.
sehr geiler Platz hier.
At the foster home and school, everyone recognized my talent with computers, and I took great pride in
Einfach mal
that.
Dienstag.
Intrigued by the logistics system Ken mentioned, I saved up to buy a computer on my modest salary and spent all my free time learning to program. Discovering that a tablet could speed up orders and automate sales tallies, I experimented by programming my own system,
Pint in
using a
Großbritannien
second-hand
entspricht-
smartphone as a tablet
Was?
stand-in. Ken gave me advice and helped me refine the program. The old
Wieso soll ein
shop
Pint in
underwent a
Großbritannien
tech
anders sein
makeover
als ein anderes
that surprised
Pint? Das hab ich
many
noch nie
customers, attracting even those
Pint
from
is a
mighty
pint.
companies. The shop owners supported my experiments, investing time and money in them. By 20, I had amassed
Oh, du,
considerable
Ich
knowledge.
hab nur den Schnaps auf
And to
Mallorca
think
probiert,
you
diese
taught
Grünen da
yourself
mit
all
den,
this.
ja.
How about joining our
Kräuterschnaps.
company? Ken eventually offered.
The only reason I
Olli,
didn't
beim
teach you
Olli
to
haben wir
cook was
haben
that
wir
I
Strom
hoped you'd
getankt
join
und
Ken's
Kräuterschnaps
company
genommen.
someday. What's the use in learning to cook if
Ja,
you're
das
going
wird's
to
nicht
be
mehr
a
geben.
corporate
Jetzt
employee?
sind wir mit dem
I personally thought it's
Kraftaufwand. Aber
better
wir
for
können ja
you
trotzdem
not
noch
to
mal-
do things halfway.
Wir können ja trotzdem noch eine
The
Retro-
restaurant owner expressed his
Retro-Schuko-Hand machen.
deep
Können wir
consideration
machen,
for
ab und
my
zu mal.
future. Leaving the restaurant
Sag mal,
felt wrong
ich könnte-
after
ich
having
könnte es ja mal
received
triggern
3
mit
years of
irgendwas.
kindness, but I was grateful for the owner's foresight.
This place is old,
So eine
and it would
bestimmte,
need to be rebuilt
bestimmte
even if
Sache,
someone
die
took it
triggert dann,
over.
dass ich den
I
Stecker
don't
nicht
really
benutzen
want to
darf.
continue it that
24
much.
Stunden oder
When you
sowas.
get a job, you'll be renting an apartment, right? I'm planning to close this restaurant eventually.
Gute Idee.
I felt lonely as the restaurant owner said that. For me, it was
Oh
like
nein.
my own home.
I'll be your guarantor when you rent an apartment. I'll hire someone from the foster care who seems to have dropped out of school, like you did. That's one way to
Okay,
contribute to
es war
society.
trotzdem noch,
Once you are
auf den
settled,
Punkt gebracht,
come
ja.
by for a meal sometimes, will you?
Danke für die Info.
The manager tried to alleviate my guilt about leaving by
Nicht so
talking
viel,
about various
unnötige Infos.
things.
Das war alles,
And then I told Ken
wichtige
about it.
Info.
That's because you've worked hard. I heard from the owner how you
Manchmal
studied
postet
till
halt
late
jemand,
every night.
irgendwelche Infos,
Please take
wo
care of that kid,
90%
he'd say to me.
völlig unrelevant sind.
Ken shared about the owner's
Ja, das war alles
kindness.
relevant. Sehr gut.
Let's get you to take the hiring
das war
exam
gut.
soon. I'm sorry, but our company has never hired someone without college diploma for a technical position. It seems
good.
best for me to headhunt you. Could you summarize the system you created at the restaurant in your resume? We'll use that as the first round of selection.
After being
Nee,
told
das wusste
this,
ich auch nicht.
I
ne?
prepared
Mit
my
diesen Unzen, das
resume
war
and
mir
handed it to
also Feind
Ken.
und Unzen, das war mir immer
There seemed to be
Geheimnis.
considerable opposition within the company, but Ken wanted them to see my abilities and suggested that if I could
Ja, aber wieso ist
outperform a
dann das
third-year
Pint
engineer in a
in
programming
Großbritannien
contest,
größer als
they
dieses
should
Pint?
hire me.
Ich weiß nicht, was für ein Pint die
I
jetzt
went to
hier
the
verkaufen.
company
Ich
at
hab
the
keine Ahnung.
time Ken had told me and
Müssen wir
took
mal
the
das
exam.
spanische Pint. Warte mal, hier
Before
steht
the
was.
exam, the restaurant owner closed the restaurant to buy me a suit, and he accompanied me to the store. As I put on the suit, the owner couldn't help but tear up, feeling proud of my growth. Wearing the suit felt more restrictive than I expected. Furthermore, as I didn't know how to tie a necktie, a female clerk helped me, making my face turn red from
Hier ist ein
embarrassment.
Strich, hier.
As the restaurant
hier,
owner teased me
40
about it,
Centiliter.
a passerby
Aber es war ja
remarked,
bis oben hin
"What a
gefüllt."
close father and son you both
Also ich
are."
weiß nicht, welches Pint das
Hearing
ist.
that,
Keine
I
Ahnung.
said, "Yes, he's really
Plan.
my beloved father." And looking at the owner, he
Manu
finally
Outdoor.
broke down
Vielen
in
Dank für die
tears.
50 Bits.
After paying, I took the suit and
Den neuen
thanked the owner.
Labamba-Song.
He looked embarrassed, patted my shoulder, and left the store. Following him out,
Ja, die
I
Bits-Sounds sind
found the
leider auch
owner
nicht genau
crying
gleich
behind
laut.
the shop.
Also den,
Approaching
leiser
him,
machen,
I
den-
asked, "Would you consider adopting me? I'd like to call you Dad." And he quietly nodded,
Den,
saying,
Anti-Song
"Would
soll ich
you be
leiser
okay
machen,
with
ja?
me? I've wanted to ask you but couldn't. I'm so happy you said that." Then he started calling Ken. That night, Ken, the
Danke,
owner,
Lovecoin,
and
für die
I
90
went
Bits.
out to celebrate the adoption.
He has always
Ich
wanted
mach
to
den
adopt
Anti-Song
you
jetzt
since he
leiser.
took
Einen
you
Moment,
in.
aber ich muss ihn
I'm
dafür
glad that
anmachen,
dream
also nicht
came
erschrecken.
true.
Es kommt gleich der Anti-Song, ja?
Ken's words made me incredibly happy.
We have to call it an early night
Einen
because of the
Moment.
exam tomorrow.
I went home first, but the owner and Ken
Scroll ich denn
stayed
da?
out drinking till
Ich find ihn
dawn.
nicht.
The next day, I quietly
Krieg
left
mal den
for the
Anti-Song
job
rein.
exam. Although anxious about what the test would be like, I felt positive,
Un momento.
ready to study
Ah, da.
again and seize another opportunity if needed. After the interview, I took the same test as a third-year employee who quickly assembled the program. While surprised by the speed of his typing, I stayed calm and completed my programming without rushing. As the time limit approached, I had finished, but the employee was still working on his
So,
program.
besser jetzt?
After they were collected for assessment, the programs were first tested on a machine,
Ja, müsst ihr mir
starting
sagen, dann
with
kann
the
ich's ja
employees. Although his program functioned as required,
ich sehe
it
meinen
wasn't
Stream ja nicht. Ich
completely
hab keine Ahnung, ob
finished,
wenn irgendwas zu
leading
laut
to a
ist, das müsst ihr
score
mir
of
sagen.
80.
Oder am
Then,
besten
my
Mods.
program was tested.
Ähm,
It wasn't
aber
perfect,
nicht jeder
but
hat's
it
gleich
did
gehört,
score
ne?
95. The evaluators decided that my self-taught skills were more than sufficient, resulting in my hiring. I immediately shared the news with my father, and we rejoiced together. Returning to the restaurant, the regular customers also celebrated, and I was set to start work the next day. Eventually,
kommen jetzt in
the
die
owner
Region,
and I
wo nobody
formally
wahrscheinlich
completed
gedreht
the
wurde, ne?
adoption process. After joining the
Bud
company,
Spencer, der in
I became
Silvesterns
part of the
wurden alle
team
hier gedreht.
implementing the logistics system.
In der Wüste hier.
Creating
in der Sierra
something
Nevada,
from
wo wir
nothing
gerade
was
uns,
truly challenging,
sind wir jetzt
but
schon in der
through
Sierra Nevada?
continuous programming, testing, and revision, often clashing with team members, we progressed in systematizing the process. Finally, the system was launched successfully, marking a significant achievement. As the project concluded, I became the sole person responsible from the initial team tasked with managing the
war's?
system, leading to my current role. As the system went operational,
jetzt
Ken
gesehen,
retired
welches Bier,
on
weil es war der
reaching his
andere.
pension age, saying,
Okay, gut.
Tom,
Endlich.
you've done well to launch this. With this system, we can reduce both the employee workload and errors, cutting labor costs
Es wäre cool,
significantly.
wenn wir genau in
It's a
diese Stadt
considerable
gehen könnten,
benefit
wo
for the
Nobody
company.
gedreht wurde. Das wäre geil,
Ken's
oder?
contributions to the system's concept and operation
der
were
ist
recognized, and there was
von
talk
sich
of him
aus schon
joining the
saulaut. Ja,
board,
natürlich.
but he chose to enjoy
Das
his
sind Hunderte von Menschen, die
post-retirement
jubeln.
life
Natürlich ist das
instead.
laut.
Simultaneously, my father also
So, jetzt
retired,
natürlich nicht so laut
passing
sein,
the
dass,
restaurant to a
Nachbarn
young
aufwachen.
man from the foster care,
wäre
marking
natürlich
his
scheiße.
exit from active duty. The young man was also adopted, and though not related by blood, I gained a brother,
ich ja auch
and
nicht.
we
Ich will
both
nicht, dass
took
ihr
care of our
Probleme
father. Dad was planning to close the restaurant, but he reluctantly agreed when my brother wanted to take over, though
Junge,
I could tell
Lovecoin.
he was actually happy
Schon
about
wieder
it.
rein mit 9 Spitz.
Relieved of the burden, Dad has been enjoying his retirement, traveling and playing golf with Ken. After Ken retired, Ann Fuga transferred from the sales department, became the new head of our department. She, not understanding the technical side, often gave me impossible tasks,
Danke, Lovecoin.
causing frequent clashes.
Kennst du das Lied
Whenever
überhaupt,
I
Lovecoin?
outsmarted her in meetings, it seemed to hurt her
siehst ja-
pride, making her storm out,
das
red-faced, which worried our colleagues.
Gracias.
Don't embarrass the boss too much. It'll only
okay.
worsen your position, and she's probably just trying to help the company.
I was often cautioned like that, but I couldn't stay silent when our hard-earned system was criticized. I despised the contempt she occasionally showed and
Gracias.
confronted her, meeting her strong-willed gaze, having heard of her troubles with colleagues in sales. Even knowing
Also
I
dieses
was the
Bezahlen
most
im Handy,
knowledgeable
es geht schon
about the
super schnell,
system,
also
she
Wenn
refused
es
to
jemand,
acknowledge it.
kapiert und weiß, wie es geht, dann
In
ist es schneller als
reality,
Barzahler,
no
auf jeden
one
Fall.
in the company knew the logistics system better than I did, and I handled all its troubles and improvements alone.
Ja, danke, Mr.
Then,
Schmidt, fürs,
in a meeting room, I was shocked by her words.
Das ist
You
schon nicht
really
schlecht.
don't understand
Hilfsdinge,
anything, do you?
Fertig.
I sighed in exasperation, saying, "All right, I'll
Ich sag nur
resign
noch
as
Cash
you
is King,
wish.
ne? Ich sag
Who
nur noch
will
Cash
be
is
my
King, aber in bestimmten
successor?
Situationen,
It's a
es
complex
einfach besser.
system, and I'd like to ensure a proper handover. I want
Vor
to
allem, wenn die
ensure
jetzt bei
a
jedem Bier
smooth
abrechnen,
transition so
ja.
my successor won't
jedes Mal
struggle,
mit Cash,
and I
ist
told
halt-
this to the boss, but was told there's no need to hand over from a high school
Ja,
graduate
bestimmt
like
schon,
you.
ja, es sind
We'll
wahrscheinlich
leave
viele
it to
Studenten
someone with a
abgehauen, haben nicht
higher
bezahlt, deswegen
education level.
kassieren sie jetzt bei jedem Bier ab.
Furious at her words, I simply said, understood, then left
Ach,
to write my
Cash
resignation
is
letter.
King.
When I submitted
Jetzt
it,
bei so einer
the manager
Situation, wo
was
die bei jedem
astonished,
Bier
asking,
abrechnen.
What happened suddenly? Is there an issue with the terms? The company will really struggle without you. Ken also insisted on relying on you when he retired. I thought I was making things easier for you, but where did you find dissatisfaction?
The manager inquired, looking troubled, so I relayed Ann's remarks, leading him to
Flyer ist
argue.
leider weit weg.
And coming from sales, doesn't understand
Manu
the technical
Outdoor, für die
aspects.
100 Bits.
You don't need to
Danke
take
dir.
her seriously. Even if she talks about
Wenn man sein
hiring
Schwarzgeld
educated
von A nach B
employees,
bringen will, braucht man
no
Cash.
one but you can manage the system. And a handover would take
Cash
at
is
least a
king.
year, right?
Ohne Strom
The
geht nichts.
manager appeared quite angry at her
Junge,
comments.
Lovecoin.
I don't mind
Lotto
quitting,
gewonnen?
but I want to ensure a proper handover. With discussions about system upgrades ongoing, halting the system would significantly harm the company. The manager nodded.
Exactly. Let me keep this resignation letter. I'll inform her of the risks after your departure and try to change her mind.
Thank
Danke,
you,
Lovecoin.
please
Nochmal
do.
90 Bits.
As I was about to
So, mal gucken,
leave,
wie der,
the manager
Fahrradakku
asked,
schon
just out of curiosity,
leer gezogen
what are
hat,
your
wie viel
plans
Prozent?
after leaving the company?
Seit vorhin.
So I responded with a
Der lädt
smile.
jetzt
My
unentwegt.
brother has taken over the restaurant, so I'll be
Wir sind bei
helping out
100%
there for a
rausgegangen,
while.
jetzt haben wir 76
Good
schon
to
an.
know you'll be nearby. Maybe we can hire you as a
Schau mal, wie
contractor
viel
if
Licht
needed.
abbrennen.
It'll be easier for you,
sieht man leider
avoiding
nicht, wie der-
direct dealings with
wie
the
voll der
boss.
Fahrradakku ist.
The manager suggested that to me.
Auf jeden
If
Fall
Anne
über
agrees,
50%
though
jetzt.
she probably won't because of her spite,
Also der wird
I
meine
said to the
Pause komplett
manager
leer ziehen.
I
Ne?
wouldn't return to the company until a
Dann ist es sowas,
decision
muss
was
bei
made
30%
and
dann,
left for the day.
Abriegeln.
Dad and my brother were surprised by my early
Vielleicht finden wir heute
return
Nacht
and
einen,
showed
gescheiten
concern
Platz,
as
wo man
I
morgen früh
explained the
gleich die Sonne drauf
situation,
kriegt.
making
Dann kann
me
man morgen
truly
gleich mit 60,
appreciate
70%
having a
starten,
family
dann
for
sollte
the
okay
first
sein.
time.
Dann haben wir
Although I
morgen,
had been
einen
worried
guten Tag
about
auf jeden
before
Fall.
while in foster care, being cared for by
Ohne dass wir einen
family
zweiten
felt
Akku
uniquely
aktivieren müssen.
reassuring. Meanwhile, the manager tried to persuade Anne
Ja, also
about my
irgendjemand filmt hier
contributions
süßlichen
and the
Düften.
impact of my absence, spending time
Ich rieche es
trying
ganz
to bring
deutlich.
me to the company. However,
Ein
Anne
süßlicher
remained
Duft macht sich hier
unconvinced,
breit gerade.
leading to my definitive resignation. Confronting her, the manager asked,
How will you take
Obwohl
responsibility
ich gar nicht,
if the
weiß, ob man
logistics
es
system
süßlich nennen
fails
kann.
and causes company damage?
her cold reply was,
It's just the system a high school graduate created.
Squeezy.
We can simply rebuild it. I don't see it as a
Das sind
big deal,
Studenten, ja,
especially
von der
with the
Uni.
talented college graduates we've hired.
The manager
was heißt
shared
Party?
this
Das,
with
ist
me
wie
over
so ein-
beers at the shop, apologizing
Großer Open Air
Tom,
Biergarten.
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Vor-
protect you.
Ich glaube, das ist Uni-Hauptgebäude.
as he downed his
Ich kann's
beer
mal
and
zeigen.
asked
Moment,
for
ich mach mein
more.
Handy an.
I replied back to him,
Ich zeig mal die
I
Area hier.
appreciate it, manager, but don't overdrink. We don't want to worsen your standing with the boss, and if the new employee can handle it, maybe it's for the best. Now that I've resigned, I'm thinking of enrolling in an online college. This situation made me realize I need at least that qualification.
It's frustrating to be discounted for lack of formal education. I thought technical skills should stand on their own.
Das ist
The
Uni-Hauptgebäude.
manager empathized with me as I lamented my situation, having climbed the ranks on his skills alone. His acknowledgement meant a lot to me. Let's see how the new employee and brought in handles things. I can help out if there's trouble, regardless of the cost.
Also hier wäre ich jeden
Hearing
Tag.
this, Dad asked, good thinking. I'd be happy if you can do that. Don't you need to discuss it with Ken? He's enjoying retirement so much, I don't want to
Love Coin
worry
noch mal
him,
mit 90
and he
jetzt
can
noch.
really intervene
Also
in
wegen
company
mir kannst du
matters.
Spiel,
It would just
Den
upset
ganzen
him
Tag
to know
abspielen.
about
Kein
it.
Problem damit, Love Coin.
I
Danke
asked
dir.
Dad to keep this a secret for Ken's sake. That day, the manager stayed late at the restaurant, reluctant to leave, so I drove him home and thought about what I could do for him, deciding to prepare handover documents. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked on the documents and handed them to the manager on my last day. While many colleagues saw me off, Anne and her employee, John, continued working, not leaving their desks. The manager
Ja,
had
sehr
suggested John say goodbye,
geil.
but
Also
he
wie so ein
refused,
studentischer
only
Biergarten.
following Anne's orders, and after that, the manager stopped trying to talk to him. After resigning, I enrolled in an online college, attending
Hype Train, nee, ist
classes,
nicht deaktiviert.
spending my days
Aber
in
der
a
wird
mix
erst
of
getriggert,
relief
wenn,
and
ich
loneliness
glaub,
due to
100
the
Bits oder
lack
mehr
of
reinkommen.
contact from the
Und zwar
company.
Von zwei
I was
Personen
surprised
verschiedenen.
one night by a call from
Soweit
the
ich weiß.
manager, sounding very
In einem
panicked.
bestimmten Abstand.
The
Aber ich hab
logistics
keine
system
Ahnung, wie
has
das genau
crashed.
läuft.
John made changes without proper checks and without any backup data taken before. We can't restore it.
Ja, Batteriehase.
I'm on my way.
Hat Spaß gemacht, weil ich
I
habe ja selber
quickly
mitraten
responded
können,
to the
weil
manager and
auf
headed
meinem-
to the
auf meinem
company,
Bildschirm
where
hat
the
er auch nichts
manager was
angezeigt.
waiting for
Erst
me
nach
at the
15
gate.
Sekunden,
Inside, I found John
erst
being
nach
yelled
15
at by a
Sekunden
crowd.
kam dann die Auflösung. bei
When
mir.
will this
Also ich
be
konnte
fixed?
praktisch
You said
mitraten,
you could handle it, right?
Ich hab
Not
natürlich
taking
nichts
a backup
gesagt,
is just
weil
negligent.
wegen dem
Who's
Delay,
going
ne?
to
Ich hatte,
take
irgendwie 10
responsibility for
Sekunden
this?
Vorsprung.
In the midst of the chaos, John was
nicht
losing his
spoilern.
cool, blaming Anne. I told her I couldn't do it. If you have a complaint, take it up with her.
Aber
She
ja, das hat
knows
Spaß
how to
gemacht, muss ich
handle
auch
the
sagen.
responsibility.
After
Das könnte man
John
dann noch
broke the
machen,
program,
so-
she just said
Ja,
she
einfach mal ein
had
Lied
something else to do
anspielen und-
and left. What's with that
Das
boss?
Lied
But
raten.
right now, fixing this is what matters. Tom, you're the only one I can rely on. Please help.
The manager
könnte auch
pleaded
mal-
my
ja,
help,
okay, das geht
so
wieder
I
mit YouTube
approached
nicht.
John.
So eine
John,
kurze Film,
right.
Filmausschnitt,
Tell me
ne?
what
Ein paar Sekunden
happened.
Filmausschnitt.
It's none of
Zack.
your business.
He retorted
nichts
coldly,
Eindeutiges,
causing my former
wo du genau
colleagues
siehst,
to
welcher
get
Film das
even
ist.
more upset.
So eine B-Szene.
How can you
aus
say
diesem
that to
Film.
Tom? Fu came here to
Ja,
help.
Songs rückwärts.
They chided John, moved him aside, and
Song
invited
Battle, was
me
ist
to
denn das?
take
Hab ich
over
schon
the
mal irgendwo
computer.
gesehen auf Twitch.
Seeing the program,
das genau?
I realized it was one of the system's most complex parts. Taking a deep breath to focus, I started restoring the altered areas back to their original state. Surprisingly, I had
Ich will wieder
memorized the
studieren.
complex parts due to the difficulties I faced before, completing the restoration in about an hour. After a successful check, my former colleagues applauded me, and many came to shake my hand. John, watching from the side, accused, "You made such a complicated program
geht's
on
ja weiter, das
purpose,
sind auch
so
nervige
no one
Sachen.
else can touch it. Huh, that's a sneaky
Der ganze
move."
Weg bis dahin.
I didn't do anything like that. It became like this because I was trying to meet everyone's needs. I spent months building just this part of the program. It's complex
Also das
and
Letzte, was ich
significant
studiert war,
to me.
studiert
If
habe, wie
you
man
had
so einen
done
Hänger
your
baut.
research, you should have known not to tamper with it.
Tell that to Anne. She said anyone could handle it because a high school graduate made it. But looking at it,
Ich würd
finding
gern mehr so
someone
Sachen bauen,
who can
ne?
write this level
Macht
of
echt Spaß,
programming isn't
was
easy,
bauen und
even
so
in the
benutzen.
whole country. How did you acquire these skills?
Aber so ein Wohnanhänger ist halt
John
schon
bitterly
was
remarked,
absolut
but
Geiles.
I left without responding. I went with the manager and my former colleagues to the company's gate, and they saw me
Wo hast
off.
du das her?
Can't wait to see Anne's reaction tomorrow. Maybe we should start a petition to
Sehr
bring you
Galicia.
back. Tom,
Ich find
this
fast-
company needs you.
Ich glaub,
I
ich switch
appreciated
zu
the
Estrella
sentiment,
de la
but
Manta.
wasn't hopeful.
Das finde ich fast
However,
besser als
the
Estrella Galicia.
satisfaction of solving the problem reignited my desire to continue in this field.
Aber es ist halt
Considering
Eisgekühlt, ne?
employment
Eisgekühlt
in
schmeckt fast
ID,
wie Bier gut.
I realized
Muss
my
ich aufpassen.
educational background might still be a
Aber
barrier.
Galizia auch geil.
Even with independence, my
was ich noch
only
geil
real
finde, ist
connections
Alhambra
were with my former
1925.
company, making me wonder if
hast es
returning
echt
there was
bekommen
my
in
only
NRW,
option.
krass.
Lying
Ist
in
die
bed,
schwarz-
staring at the
schwarz-rot,
ceiling,
die Flasche?
I pondered these farts.
Hast du die schwarz-rote Flasche?
Eventually, dawn broke after a night of contemplation, and I faced the day on little
Ja, will ich
sleep.
jetzt auch einen trinken, muss ich
That
sagen.
day, Anne appeared at the office as if nothing had happened,
Dann kann
receiving a
Chat voten,
report
welche
from
Song von
John.
der zwei der
Upon
beste
discovering
ist,
I
dann
had
die
resolved
Parade
the
und sowas.
issue,
Machen wir doch
she
schon
seemed
das mit.
frustrated, slamming
Machen
her
wir schon die
desk.
Parade.
John, witnessing
Jeder
this,
Mann, ich glaub,
was
das reicht.
shocked, and it seemed to drive a
Jetzt nicht
wedge
wieder
between
overdoen,
them,
ne?
leading to
Was
silence.
Spezielles.
The department's atmosphere soured, and the manager's visits to the restaurant became more frequent. He brought many complaints every time.
Dem du stehst.
If there's another major issue with the
Schwarz-rote
logistics
Dose, ja,
system,
geil.
I bet John might quit. He seems to manage small problems, but
Kostet hier
it
im
takes
Supermarkt
too
1
long,
Euro immer
and it
genau.
looks like
Und diese
he's
kleinen,
reaching his limit. He's not well
Kiosk-
received by
Supermärkten,
the other
1 Euro für
employees
eine
either.
Dose, ist geil.
And meanwhile, has started ignoring John's struggles, probably
Danke
planning
für
to
den
bring in
Alkohol.
someone new.
Ein spitzer Winkel.
He continued, asking for
Danke,
another
danke, danke.
beer. What's the
Das
best
ist so
course
geil,
of
diese
action?
kleinen Supermärkte,
The
die bei
best
uns so
thing would
ultra
be for
teuer
you to
sind,
come
sind
back
hier
and
fair
maybe get
gepreist,
Ann
ne?
transferred.
He
Bei uns
whispered
würdest
that
du für
to
eine
me.
Dose Bier
That's a bit
mindestens 2
harsh.
Euro zahlen.
Maybe
Jetzt zahlst du
just
genau
a
1 Euro.
transfer.
Only
1
3
Euro.
months until April. If Ann is still around, maybe I'll quit and we can start a
Also diese
company
kleinen
together.
Spätis
Tom,
oder,
I feel
Trinkhallen
like
oder
we
wie
can
man's
do
nennt.
anything if we team up.
Gibt's hier ja auch zuhauf.
No
ne? Aber
need
hier
for
sind
you
die
to
wirklich fair
quit.
gepreist.
I've thought about starting my own business. Fixing the issue yesterday
Also Spanien
made me
schon
think
ein-
I
also wenn du
still
weg bist
could,
von den
and I
Touristen, ist
want to
Spanien sehr
test my
günstig, muss man
abilities.
echt sagen.
But there's nothing around here,
günstig.
and my lack of education follows me. It seems like my only option might be to return to the company. When I said that, my dad, who rarely interrupts, spoke up.
Were you stuck in that kind of thinking? Go out there and
Meinst du
test your
Alkohol,
skills.
allgemein
There's
alles?
always someone better in the world. knowing that is how you grow.
Okay, in den Billigsupermärkten
Finding a
ist
job
natürlich
again
in
might be
Deutschland
hindered
unfair,
by
ne?
your lack of formal education, but if you are working independently, no one will know
Die haben ja auch Lidl
unless you
hier,
tell
Aldi,
them. There's
Aldi
nothing
hat's
to
gesehen.
lose, right?
Encouraged by Dad's
Manu
words,
Outdoor,
I made up
danke für
my
die 110
mind.
Bits.
Got it, Dad.
Danke, danke,
I'll
Manu
give it a
Outdoor.
shot.
Yeah, go for it. If you're going to travel around, you
Ja,
need
ich
to
will
get
heute
your
den Hassel
driver's
wieder trinken.
license. What about your online college?
I can't juggle everything, so I'll get my driver's license first. Education doesn't matter much for working independently, right? As
Das ist
Dad
der
and I
Tanz
got
von dem
excited, the manager, feeling left out, said grumpily, "Hey, I brought it up, so let me in on it too. You have a family and kids, and it'll cost you, so quitting might not be the best idea. If you really can't stand your current company, maybe think it over, but wait until the end of March personnel changes. Can you
Ist er
refer
wirklich mit dem
someone
Rucksack
to us?"
unterwegs?
After convincing the manager, I started
Wow.
attending driving school the next day. The school was crowded with high school seniors about to proceed to college, making me sigh deeply. Feeling
schwer zu
inferior because these kids will have a higher education level than me, attending driving school became a source of
Muss man mal in die
distress.
Tasche reinschauen.
That sense of educational
könnte echt sein,
inferiority wasn't easy to shake
Schwer zu
off,
sagen.
so I took every class
Vielen Dank,
available
Lovecoin, für die
from
90
morning
Bits.
till night to finish as soon as possible. In a month and a half, I got my license.
Aber wenn du
During a
dort in
break,
Spanien einen
as I was
achso,
looking at a used car magazine,
Der
Dad and my
Klassiker,
brother
das, was
approached me
dazukommt.
with big smiles, handing me
Ey, ich
something
weiß es
I
nicht, Manu,
instantly
wie das
recognized.
getriggert wird. Ich habe keine Ahnung.
Car keys
Ich hab
led
keinen
to the
Plan.
parking lot. A white
Dann
minivan
bleib
with a
ich bei
newbie
0,5er
driver
Dosen,
sign
weniger
awaited.
Sandwich schmecken mir super. Ja,
This
das
is
ist
for
nett.
me.
Wenn
Both
ich jetzt
nodded,
hier Lidl
and
hole,
I
dann
climbed
kriegst du
into
es
the
auch um 100
driver's
Euro,
seat.
natürlich. Ich
Driving
meine,
off without a
diese
specific
kleinen
destination
Supermärkte,
in mind,
diese Spätis.
we reminisced
Oder
about
Trink-
our time
Trinkhallen bei
starting at
uns.
the restaurant, driving
Die sind ja
until
viel
the
teurer als
gas
der
ran out.
Supermarkt. Aber die sind
I
hier in
often
Spanien
wonder
halt,
where my
immer noch
life would have
günstig.
been without meeting you, Dad.
Das hab ich gemeint.
Raised without knowing familial
Die
warmth,
Billigsupermärkte
you
sind genauso
showered
billig
me
wie bei
with
uns.
love and let me pursue my
Also der
interests.
Mercadona
I'm
oder
truly grateful.
Mercadona ist, glaube ich, ein bisschen teurer.
That's good to hear.
Aber Lidl
All
ist
I can
genau
do
bei
is
uns die
not get
Preise.
in your way and support you. That's just what parents do for their kids. So
Kriegst du
don't
ja
hold
auch.
back with me. You are still young and have a long road ahead. Believe in your abilities, and someone will take notice.
My brother nodded in agreement. Thanks, I'll do my best. The next day, I decided to make my former company my first business client. When I called the manager to announce my independence, he said, "Congratulations.
Manu.
As a celebration of your new start,
Danke für die 100
I'd like
Bits.
to offer you a job." He had prepared by asking the
Aber in
team
welcher
that
Bar in
launched the
Deutschland kriegst du
logistics
einen
system
halben
to help
Liter
me,
für 2,20
and they were
Euro?
ready to support my venture. I was
Selbst im
invited to the
Studentenviertel
office
kriegst du
for a
das nicht.
meeting,
Außer
waiting
da ist
in the
irgendeine
conference room,
Studentenparty.
and entered.
Tom, it's been a while. The last time we spoke was in this room. I really appreciate you fixing the recent
Hype
trouble.
Train ist doch längst
I
schon
hadn't
längst im
realized
Anmarsch.
how capable you are and how much your
Ich weiß
colleagues
nicht, wie das
respect
getriggert
you.
wird. Mr. Schmidt, weißt du
I'm
das, wie
sorry
das
for
geht mit dem
judging
Hype
solely
Train?
based on
Blick's
education.
nicht.
And sincerely apologized to me.
I can't ask you to come back, but would you consider being our dedicated contractor? Everyone feels more secure with you around.
Surprised by
Hausbahn
Anne's
Wohnheim,
offer,
genau.
I was
Da kriegst du
pondering
Bier auch für 1,50.
when the manager arrived.
Anne, have you already discussed everything?
He addressed her.
Ja, ich weiß es nicht,
We
Leute.
talked, but he looks quite perplexed. I doubt he'll believe it coming
Ja,
from
weil
me,
ich die
so I'll
ganze
let
Zeit
you,
in der
the
Stadt
manager,
eine
explain.
Ladestation gesucht habe.
She said that and left the room. The
Aber ich
manager
lieb diese
continued,
Pintgläser, ist
proposing
einfach
a
nice,
yearly
ne? Schön zu
renewable
trinken,
contract
liegen
for
gut in der
on-site
Hand.
work, which
Und
I
sind gute
declined.
Portionen, ne?
Manager, I appreciate
Jetzt
the
kommt
thought,
Squeezy auch noch mit
but I
90
want to test myself in different places. I want to see how far my skills can go. I can commit to being on site. I turned down the permanent position but managed to secure project based work. I involved John in the programming, providing prior explanations to ensure he could handle any
Ich
issues
habe eine
if
gefunden,
I
ja,
wasn't
in der
available.
Tiefgarage in Mercadona.
This would allow me peace of mind to
Danke,
take on
Squeezy,
other
für die
clients
90 Bits.
and aid John's development. Teaching John was
hat ewig
also a way
gedauert.
of giving back, and I shared all my knowledge with him. Quick to learn, John fully grasped the logistics systems programming, and as I moved on to other clients, my workload gradually increased. With the car gifted to me by my family, I'm ready to head out anywhere I'm needed and get the job done. 5 years had flown by since I started living this way. I got married in my 3rd year of independence, and to everyone's surprise, my partner was in. The manager was utterly shocked when I handed him the wedding invitation. After marrying, my wife retired and began handling the accounting at
Nicola.
my company, supporting me steadfastly. Her competitive spirit is as strong as ever, and while she never apologizes
Nicola.
first after a fight, she genuinely
Die
cares for my
104
dad.
Bits. Danke dir.
With her managing our
Vielen
home,
Dank, Nicola.
I can travel across the country
Danke,
without
danke.
any worries. I've always felt fortunate to be supported by
333
others, allowing me to turn my
34.
passions into my career. Eventually, I'll become a father
Ein Hype
too.
drin wird ausgelöst, wenn
When that
5
time
Minuten
comes,
Beiträge
I want to shower my family with the same love and care that Dad gave me.